this video we're going to take a look at how we can start using the sensors that's on your MBot. And for this particular example we're going to be taking a look at the ultrasonic distance sensor. So the ultrasonic distance sensor, it looks like a pair of eyes at the front of your robot. It's got two silver tubes with some mesh heads on it, and what that does, it senses the distance from an object. So one of those silver tubes sends out an ultrasonic wave. That wave then bounces back off an object, and that bounce back is then read by the second silver tube. Obviously now, depending on the amount of time the bounce back takes, the less the time, the closer the object. The more time it takes to bounce back and to be read by the second silver tube, the further away that object is. So what I'm going to ask my robot to do now is I want it to move forward all the time, unless it senses there's an object there. So if there's an object, for example, within 10 centimeters of it, I want it to react. I want it to either stop, turn, go backwards. I want it to react and do something different. So the first point I'm going to do now, I'm going to decompose this. I'm going to break it down into smaller pieces. Let's look at the first piece now. First piece is I want it to move forward all the time. That's my first step. So similar to what we did in previous videos, I'm going to use the when flag is click. I'm going to go into actions. What do I want it to do? This time I want it to move forward. I'm not going to use one of these for 1 second or for 10 seconds. I'm just going to ask it to move forward all the time. When do I want it to move forward? I want it to do that forever. So that forever loop there is going to be completely vital. That means it's going to carry on doing it all the time. So a very, very simple piece of code here now then, using the forever loop. What I've told it to do now is when I click on the flag, move forward and do that all the time. So currently it's quite a simple setup for the robot because it hasn't got any decisions to make. I'm not asking it to use a sensor, I'm just asking it to move forward. So the next step here now is to introduce what we call a conditional statement. What a conditional statement means is if it senses something, I want it then to react. So if a certain condition is met, for example in this example now, the condition is whether it's less than 10 centimeters away from the object. So if that condition is met, then obviously it's going to react in a different way. And the way that we do this is using what we call an if loop. So we drag this box into here, if then. So if it senses that it's less than 10 centimeters away, then do the following command. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag, I'm going to put this underneath the move forward box. So take note of this sort of diamond-like shape here. It's greyed out, it's currently empty. What we need now is we need to find a piece of the jigsaw, or a line of command that matches that type of shape. So if we go into operators, you can see there's plenty of them here. Diamond-like shapes, they will fit in there. And if we go into sensing, we've got some other things that will fit in there as well. If it's a rounded shape, similar to this one here, 50% here now, if we go into operators, that will only take a rounded line of code. So take note of the shape, so we're looking for a diamond piece here. And it's going to be one of these three here when using sensors usually. This is more than 50, less than 50, equals 50. So don't take any notice of the 50 because obviously we're going to be changing that. For this particular example, you're going to select this insert here, which is something is less than 50. So what we said to begin with is if the distance away from an object is less than 10, so we're going to change this from 50 to 10, then do the following code. But what we need to do now is we need to tell the robot, to tell the MBot what sensor we need it to take note of. We get this information from this button here which says sensing. And if we look at the second one down, we've got to the ultrasonic sensor, distance measured in centimeters. So I'm going to drag that again, it's a rounded shape, we've got a rounded gap here, so I'm going to drag that rounded shape into here, and that then expands to accommodate that line of code. So if the ultrasonic distance sensor is less than 10 centimeters away, then we need to tell it what we need it to do. Take note now, this says port 3. can change that from port 1, 2, 3 or 4. So take a look at your robot, have a look what port your ultrasonic distance sensor has been plugged into. It could be 1, 2, 3 or 4. Mine is plugged into port 2, so I'm going to change it like this. Next thing for me to do now is I need to decide what I want my robot to do once it meets that condition. So if it's less than 10 centimeters away from an object, what do I want it to do? Well, it's certainly going to be an action. It could be one of many things. I can ask it just to stop moving. The problem with that is it's going to be stuck. So once it stops moving, once it senses that object, it's going to stop and it's going to freeze, and it's not going to move ever again. So that's not going to be any good in this instance. I can ask it now to turn left. I can ask it to turn left for a number of seconds, a set time, 1 second every time, or I can ask it to turn right. I can even ask this now to move backward for a set amount of seconds, but then that's going to introduce us with another problem. It's just going to go backwards and forwards in the same spots over and over again forever. So for this particular example, I'm going to use turn left. So the condition here in this conditional statement, just go over it once again. Move forward all the time unless you sense that you're less than 10 centimeters away from an object. If that's the case, then you're going to have to make a decision, and the decision now is you're going to turn left for 1 second. Hopefully then, once that moves away from the object, it's then going to move in the forward line again at the power of 50%, unless it meets that condition again further down the line. Then if it does meet that condition again, it's going to turn left for 1 second, once again, and then it's going to move forward. So that is your code now for setting up your robot to start making decisions and using sensors. You can do some extra stuff here, such as if I go onto the operators, rather than getting this to turn left for 1 second every time, I can use this pick random button. I can ask it to turn left for any duration of time at random between 1 second and 5 seconds. Have a go with that type of code to see whether that makes any difference. But what I want you to do now, in your pairs, working as individuals or working in a group, have a play about with this. See whether you can get the ultrasonic distance sensor to work. You might have to adjust the numbers, you might have to increase or decrease the numbers. That's what I want you to do, is I want you to get your robot to move towards an object, and then I want you to avoid that object by turning either left or right to make sure it doesn't drive into that object. So that's your task. So you can stop this video and work your way through that task.